Ladies and gentlemen, looks like we've got ourselves another bit of hit content from a new Wuthering Waves creator. And so if you're not familiar with who Smacksan RB is, I'm actually surprised I haven't subbed to him yet. He is a former Zenless Zone Zero content creator who has, well, let's just be honest here, turned his back on the game. Otherwise, he wouldn't be making a title like The Inevitable Fall Off of Hoyoverse and its Empire, because I think that he's just somebody that's finally realized where the trajectory of all of its games are headed. You can clearly see over the past year how much titles like HSR, Genshin Impact, and Zenless Zone Zero have degraded into a power creep fueled, HP inflated, new character shilling disaster. And so I'm excited to see what the take is over here because, you know, let's just be honest, he's been somebody that's been front and center to some of the biggest mismanagement of a game IP with Zenless Zone Zero that I think anybody has ever seen. Let's go ahead, let's get right on into it and see what he has to share.
I think we can all agree with the statement that Hoyoverse is in its worst spot yet. I'm not necessarily talking about the revenue because, let's be real, I know the
not pre-watched. I swear, this is just what I thought the video was gonna be. Glad I'm right.
Money is still flowing, but when it comes to public perception, community trust, and player sentiment, it's a completely different story. Genshin Impact is entering 6.0, and instead of players being excited for it, we see people quitting the game, alongside with major content creators, the same ones who's carried the community throughout the years of content droughts, and are now leaving en masse, all because the game simply is not fun, and they're tired of it.
Just a bit of misinfo that Smacksan himself has said that he's correcting. Brand Online quit HSR, not Genshin. But I will say, when it comes to Brand Online and why his photo is up here, it's not surprising that it's up here, right? Because Brand's been a lot more openly critical about Genshin Impact in recent months, right? He's been more openly critical about the features coming in, the power creep, the level 100, Stygian Onslaught, all of that. And he's faced a tremendous amount of backlash from the community. You read some of the responses that the most dire Hoyer shills are like sending him on Twitter, the stuff that they're writing in his YouTube comments, and you could assume that he was actually quitting with how angry they are at him. But he's not quitting. All he's doing is simply saying, this predatory feature that the devs added in is kind of predatory. And now they're trying to cancel him.
Then there's Honkai Star Rail, the game that had the most potential out of all of them, with the first year being a major success, and after that, it's been a downhill ever since. With absurd HP inflation, characters needing a whole football team just to make one of them work, power creep every other patch.
You wanna know my favorite part about that whole characters that need a football team to make them work? You remember how they buffed a bunch of older units? You remember how they buffed Blade? And they buffed Jing Liu? But it turns out that to use these new buffed characters, you need to pull Hyacinth, and you also need to pull Triby. This bitch over here, this bitch, you gotta pull them as well to make those older characters that they buffed usable. Brother, it's like, why do you think they changed Jing Liu into an HP scaler? Why do you think Jing Liu got changed into an HP scaler, ladies and gentlemen? Because they were using the buffs as a way to sell the newest units still.
No matter how many times the players voice their concerns with their trash storytelling, they still keep implementing it in. And then there's ZZZ, a game that had 2 soft relaunches and players still don't want to play it.
He pulled his punches there. Oh, he pulled his punches there. Yeah, he could have said a lot more about this bad boy. He could have said a lot more about that title, but I guess he kept it. I guess he still got some lingering feelings. He still got a little bit of love. Hey, maybe relaunch number 3. Third time's the charm, right? As they do say, third time is the charm. I am calling that ZZZ will probably have another soft relaunch by 2.4. I've got to do it. I've got to do it. I have to do this. Let's see what it's looking like on Twitch Tracker. Oh, let's break this down. That was the release of the patch. You can clearly see from ZZZ's track record, this is the worst received patch in the history of the game. That is the worst received patch in the history of the game. These little bumps that you're seeing over here, guys, that's the second half banner. The second half banner is what this new version update is comparing itself to in terms of viewer engagement. That's fucking nuts. That's wild.
We all know that ZZZ is the black sheep for Hoyoverse, a game that simply just sucks and doesn't seem to be getting better anytime soon. And in the horizon, Hoyo is soon to be dropping their Pokemon game that quite literally no one asked for, which is most likely going to be getting sued by Nintendo anyways.
I mean, I'm going to be real here. It should probably get sued by Nintendo and Riot. Yeah, maybe they could run like a pincer maneuver Warriors double operation, like fucking tag team up, Marvel Rivals anchor bonus on that shit. Not gonna lie, it's like TFT and Pokemon combined. Like maybe they should just duo Q in that lawsuit. I'm just gonna be real with you. It's Honkai Nexus Anima is uninspired. Let's just say that.
So, I don't know. Now, taking all of this into consideration and knowing that we're soon to be entering the golden era for gacha games, this is the worst time for Hoyo to be fumbling. With anime GTA 6 Ananta right around the corner, Azure Promelia being the first gacha game to bring a Pokemon aesthetic to the genre, Duet Night Abyss turning heads and changing what it means to be a gacha game, to Silver Palace showing off some elite level gameplay, I think within the next one.
I think that was a great rundown of probably some of the biggest competitors that are coming to the space. Yeah, Ananta, Azure Promelia, Silver Palace. I think the only one he probably missed is Rewinding Cadence. Rewinding Cadence, I think, is the main one that's not on here that I would suggest putting on. NTE? Nah, bro. Nah. That game, after its second beta test, nobody has said a word about it. I legitimately have not even... After, like, the second beta test, not anyone has talked about it a single time. I'm just gonna be real here. It's disappeared. It has effectively disappeared. Hey, maybe it'll be crazy on release, right? Hey, maybe no 50-50 is gonna save the game. Yeah, right, because a gacha game is perfect as long as it has no 50-50 on the character banner. The take that I'll make in regards to this, all the new competition coming out, all of that stuff, it's pretty simple. I think Hoyoverse has recognized that they have an inferior product. I think Hoyoverse has recognized that they don't want to spend the resources, that they don't want to put in the effort to actually fix up their game systems. And so what they're doing right now is they're dialing to 11 everything that's predatory, everything that's power creep, and everything that's pay to win. They are trying to make all of the existing end games, all of the existing game modes, all of that, very frustrating and to a degree absolutely unplayable unless you are one of the most committed players to the game who's like grinding like crazy, playing the game like a full-time job, or you're spending a fuck ton of money on it to pull every single character. And you can clearly see that's what's going on because A, they're not focused on acquiring new players anymore. They're entirely focused on just leveraging the existing player base to spend more and more money. And what is the only thing that most players are doing when they're well invested in a game? It's play the end game modes, right? Because you get done with the story. It's like, what, 4 to potentially 10 hours if you're Honkai Star Rail. It's 4 to 10 hours, maybe 2 to 10 hours every 40 fucking days. The only other thing you're doing is like the side events, which you might not even play because they're dog shit. Like ZZZ's fucking... Ooh, look, I'm gonna play a robot. I'm gonna go play a robot for 2 hours in a game where I spend $400 on the playable characters. Yes, I love doing that. I love spending $400 on my character and then not playing them. You either spend your time in the events, or you actually use your characters that you either grinded or paid for, and you go into the end game. And then they're making the end game inaccessible unless you pay money on the game. And so it's basically just like they don't care if you leave because the end game's awful because you were gonna leave and go play the other games anyways. But if they can get you to pull a couple more characters, lose a couple more 50-50s, lose some more 75-25s on the weapon banner, do all of that before you leave, then they've won. Because otherwise, you were just gonna leave for Silver Palace. You were just gonna leave for all these other titles anyways. Why not get another $1,000, another $300 from you before you exit? And when you think of that line of reasoning, when you think of that dynamic, you're going to lose them anyways. Why not squeeze out another $1 or $2? Doesn't it make sense why all of these endgames have gotten so much HP inflation? Why they've gotten so much more restrictive in the characters you're allowed to use to clear? Why so many more of the buffs have gotten hyper-specific to the point of making characters like Hoshimi Miyabi feel bad to use? Not really, right? It's because these games, they're slated to die. Intentionally by the company.
level gameplay, I think within the next 1 to 2 years, Hoyoverse's fall off will be inevitable.
Agreed. And that provides some of my reasoning for why.
To be clear, this isn't just a people being bored problem. This is a trend across all Hoyoverse titles. It's a systematic and dev team issue. For years, we've seen the same pattern. A strong launch, hype through the roof, massive marketing pushes, and then the slow decay sets in. Because instead of building on the core gameplay, Hoyoverse seems to be focused on implementing some of the most money-hungry monetization tactics in the industry.
And you can see it over here. The amount of time that it's taken from it to degrade from a good starting package to like a money-grubbing product. For Genshin, it took 4 years, right? When Natlan started, that's when Genshin started degrading as a product. For HSR, when Penacony was halfway through, it started degrading as a product. And for ZZZ, after version 1.4, it started degrading as a product. So ZZZ only took 6 months, Genshin took 4 years, and Honkai Star Rail took like 1.5 years. 4 years, 1.5 years, 6 months. Honkai Nexus Anima's basically just gonna be probably not gonna let you install the game unless you spend $500. That's probably what's gonna happen. Is like it's just Honkai Nexus Anima's probably just gonna be like that on launch. Like you can't play unless you spend $500. Like at the way that they're heading in 4 years, 1.5 years, half a year, it's like just make it at launch, make it shit at launch.
Another thing worth pointing out is how out of touch the company seems to be with its community. Players have been extremely vocal, whether it's about resin caps in Genshin, the HP blow in Star Rail, or the dull gameplay loop in ZZZ, and the response from the dev team is always the same, quite literally nothing.
No, they make it worse. What do you mean? Guys, people complained about exploration quality of life locked behind limited characters in Natlan. They were like, damn, it's kind of annoying how shitty these Saurians are. Then they added Lauma, who's just Torrent from Elden Ring. They basically put in Torrent from Elden Ring, the horse. And that is Lauma, the character. Her exploration quality of life is fucking insane. And on top of that, she also has the Dendro rework as a part of her kit as well. So it's like in Natlan, all you had was pay-to-win exploration, locked behind the limited banners. Now you have the Dendro rework and pay-to-win exploration locked behind the banners as well. So they literally just made it, they amplified it. Put a fucking outro skill on the predatoryness of the game after people had already complained so much about what was going on in Natlan. So no, they don't listen. They take your feedback and they literally make the problem worse.
It creates this feeling that the devs are designing for investors, not players, and in a genre already filled with cash grabs, that's the fastest way to burn out your most loyal fans. Now let's talk a bit more about the...
I mean, let's be real here. There's a reason why you have creators like Brand Online and Duro44 uploading apology videos for their live reacts to the 6.0 live stream. There's a reason why these Hoyo-affiliated creators felt the need to apologize for expressing their honest thoughts about the update. Because it's fucking bad, bro. It's like, oh, level 100, needing C9 characters, needing to spend $1,000 to take a character to level 100? Oh, that seems a little predatory. And they got to apologize to their audience for saying shit like that.
Creator scene too. Now, views across the board, whether it be HSR or ZZZ, they're all on the downtrend recently. And it's not a shocking thing to see. Both games are going through their dry periods and fans are fed up. But when it comes to Genshin, well, YouTube and Twitch views are still there, but yet we're seeing major CCs leaving and turning their back on Hoyo for good. Why is that? Well, it seems like creators are no longer prioritizing lining up their pockets while selling their souls in return. Creators are now realizing that these games are bad and they're shifting their careers to different avenues that doesn't restrict them on what they can upload and what opinions can be said in their videos.
Just so you all know, Hoyoverse has had contracts with creators where explicitly in the contract it will say, if you make Wuthering Waves content, you have to send it to us first. You have to send it to the Hoyoverse contract makers to approve of your video before you can upload it. If it's a Wuthering Waves video. Those with Genshin, HSR, ZZZ contracts, they had that. They had that stipulation. That's got to be illegal. It's not necessarily illegal. You want to know why? It's a financial agreement. You could say, no, fuck off. I don't want to do that. Then you're not going to get the contract money. So they're literally financially incentivizing people to not make Wuthering Waves content. That is what it is. They are paying people not to make Wuthering Waves content.
Hoyoverse is well known for paying off their creators to throw out propaganda, and it seems like creators are finally taking a stand. And when the creators leave, the community loses momentum, discussions die down, hype fades, it becomes a cycle of silence. And once you enter that spiral, it's hard to climb back out of it. And
it's funny how all of this has backfired, though. Because now the narrative has become, because of Hoyoverse's actions, the narrative has become, if you don't make Wuthering Waves content, you're literally getting paid to lie by Hoyoverse. Even if that's not the case, that's what most people now think. That is what most people now think if there's somebody that's not making any woo-wah content at all and is mainly focusing on Genshin, Hoyoverse, HSR, that sort of stuff. It's that, hey, yeah, you're actually a fucking shill. And naturally, there are going to be some unfortunate, like, you know, unintended casualties as a result of that. But let's just be honest here. That is the space that Hoyoverse has made. And if you're a new CC that's deciding to, you know, jump on into Hoyo games, that's, unfortunately, that is a sin that you'll have to bear because Hoyoverse hates competition.
beyond the games themselves, we got to talk about Hoyoverse as a brand, because this isn't just a gameplay crisis, it's becoming a reputational problem. There was a time when the name Hoyoverse sparked excitement. Do you all remember when they announced HSR? We were all super hyped. When ZZZ was announced, everyone was ecstatic. Now when they announced Honkai Nexus Anima, pretty sure the consensus reaction for everyone was, how bad is this game really going to be?
Nobody cares about this shit. I'm gonna be real here. I saw like CCs that would regularly like react to news and stuff. They reacted to news about Honkai Nexus Anima. Motherfucker, they got like 1/3, 1/2 of the views they normally would. This game is like, as like a pre-release hype like coverage, this is like one of the most unpopular games I've ever seen. Literally one of the most unpopular fucking games I've ever seen. Like, I think most people made one video on it and then they haven't touched it since because that video did so fucking bad. I didn't even make a video on it because I saw how bad other people's videos were doing.
They built a reputation for style over substance, and the reputation is starting to catch up with them. But the thing is, I think Hoyoverse might think they're too big to fail. The money is
Agreed. That's why they're taking this sort of like nuclear measure when it comes to milking their player base, as all of these other competitors have come out. There is no other explanation for that, for why Wuthering Waves comes out as a competitor, and then immediately after Woo-Wah comes out, all of Hoyoverse's games become a predatory pay-to-win mess. Woo-Wah released, then you had Natlan, and then it all went downhill from there. Woo-Wah released, and then you had fucking Monkey Patch, Banana Patch, and HSR. Woo-Wah released, and then you have fucking Hoshimi Miyabi come in and just cut the game's future into a million pieces because she was their last resort. Absolutely insane.
Still coming in. The App Store charts are still showing them at the top, so in their mind, they think everything is okay. But history tells you, once a company starts thinking it's untouchable, that's when the decline actually starts. Another angle we need to talk about is how much the gacha audience itself has evolved, and how Hoyoverse seems to be completely out of sync with that shift. Back in 2020, Genshin came out during a time when the average player just wanted a game they could sink hours into. People were locked down, life was chaotic, and a beautiful open world with cool looking characters and dailies felt like a gift.
Genshin, as like a time consumption during COVID, was good for a lot of people, right? Because they could spend their time on like meaningless, annoying shit like letting stamina regenerate and stuff like that because they literally had nothing else to do. But in the modern era where like COVID is over and like people have like shit that they're trying to do and they don't want to spend 30 minutes collecting chests for 50 primo gems, or like 10 out of the 150 required ascension materials, they've realized, wait, I don't have that much time to waste on this fucking game anymore. This shit is all taking too long. And that's why Genshin account piloters, I'm pretty sure people that get paid to like do exploration and do quests in Genshin Impact, they're like a noticeable part of like the Philippines GDP. I genuinely think they are like a non-zero percentage. Maybe like 1 to 2% of like the GDP of the entire country is like Genshin Impact account piloters. Because that's how booming the business has gotten. Because that's how little people want to play the game.
Bar was different. But now it's 2025. Players are older, smarter, and more critical. The average gacha enjoyer is no longer just chasing dopamine from polls. They want satisfying gameplay, fair monetization, innovation, and respect for their time. Hoyoverse is still acting like their player base is frozen in time. Like they can recycle the same design blueprint across multiple games games, and everyone will just eat it up because the presentation looks polished.
So this is the thing. They're trying out new designs. It's just the designs look like shit. This is like the worst looking character I think I've ever seen in a gacha game before. This literally looks like one of those 3-star NPCs. Like the 3-star, like blue rarity are rarity NPCs. Put a visor on her, right? Like a mask to cover her face, and she's literally one of the 3-star NPCs.
In time, like they can recycle the same design blueprint across multiple games, and everyone will just eat it up because
The most generic face in gacha history. NPC!
the presentation looks polished, but the audience has matured. There's also a bigger cultural shift happening, one that Hoyoverse seems to be ignoring. People are starting to push back on predatory monetization and exploitative systems. They've seen other studios try new things, they've been exposed to gacha systems that aren't as predatory, and they're tired of the same old slop from Hoyo. And Hoyoverse, they're doubling down. They're fine with the criticism as long as the cash keeps flowing. But again, history shows us that this isn't sustainable. We've seen other giants fall because they couldn't adapt to the shift in player expectations.
I think Hoyoverse is at the point where I think they're comfortable with the player count. I don't think they're, again, like I said before, I don't think they care too much about growing anymore.
Blizzard, BioWare, even Square Enix in some areas, the pattern is always the same. Ignore feedback, prioritize money over fun, watch the community rot from the inside out, and simply get replaced by hungrier, more creative competitors. Hoyoverse is not immune to that cycle, and the more they act like they are, the faster they accelerate toward inevitable failure. Now, if we zoom out for a
There's a track record. There's a track record of this happening in the space. Not necessarily gacha, right? But there is a track record of this happening for a lot of like the companies that he's talked about before. But the unfortunate thing, or maybe the fortunate thing, depending on where you stand on this side of the equation, is that there's a lot more sunk costs associated with a gacha, right? Because chances are you will have spent way more money on like a gacha game than you would have spent on any of the games by like these other companies, right? That we talked about as like old, right? How much could you have spent on World of Warcraft? Potentially a lot, but probably not as much as like 3 Genshin characters. BioWare, these are like buy to play games, right? Square Enix, these are all like buy to like, right? The thing is like you're maybe spending like $100 max for like the game and like a DLC for these companies, right? You're spending $400 on one character. And one character gets released every 42 days. So it's just like there's so much more, like so many more investments that players have made compared to titles like this. And so they're far less likely to leave because, well, leaving is you essentially saying, I put in all this money into something, I am not going to play it anymore. And so that money is now effectively useless. That money is now effectively nothing. That's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. And I think that's, honestly, it's kind of hilarious, right? It makes Hoyoverse look even more malicious because now you know that they're actively making these games worse. They're actively sabotaging the future by milking so much money in the present. And they know that they're relying on like sunk cost to keep people staying and paying versus like an actual good game. It's the opposite of Wuthering Waves when you think about it, right? Where the game improves over time as they get more money. Genshin, Hoyoverse, ZZZ, HSR, they're all becoming worse and they're relying on the sunk costs and the prior investments when the game was better for you to stay. I mean, when you think about that dynamic, holy shit, it just keeps getting worse.
And simply get replaced by hungrier, more creative competitors. Hoyoverse is not immune to that cycle, and the more they act like they are, the faster they accelerate toward inevitable failure.
So yeah, I'm not sure how much I buy that. We'll just have to see, because you're gonna have to go against one of the most like convincing bits of like human psychology that has like existed since like the dawn of man. Staying with something even though you shouldn't, even though everything is telling you to leave, you still stay because of your prior investments, even when they don't really mean anything anymore. You're asking people to work against that. And that's a little tough.
Now, if we zoom out for a second, this isn't strictly just about Hoyo and their shortcomings. It's also about what the rest of the industry is doing right. The gacha space is a continuous evolving space that's growing more and more each year, with monetization from games like Wuthering Waves, Duet Night Abyss leaning towards being more consumer friendly, with games like Ananta and NTE changing up the open world scene, with games like Silver Palace changing up the combat appeal. The gacha space is further growing into something big, but Hoyoverse continues to hand out this slop on a silver plate and expect us to eat it. Players are ready for something new. The market isn't just waiting for the next big gacha, it's begging for change, and we've seen it with Wuthering Waves, but the space needs more of it, and it's not enough.
There's a reason why views on games like Silver Palace, Ananta, NTE a little bit before the hype for it died. There's a reason why those games are so popular when the new trailers come out, when reacts to those trailers come out. It's because people want something else. They want something different. Wuwa, to a degree, can handle some of like that open world action sort of itch, right? But Wuwa's just one game, and it's still a gacha. And Wuwa is still designed at its core to only be played on average about 20 minutes a day, perhaps even less, 15 to 20 minutes a day. And so you actually do, even if you're somebody that like mains Wuthering Waves, you probably have time for another title. But all the Hoyoverse games are really fucking bad. It's like, I only actually actively play Wuwa right now. I used to split my time with games like HSR ZZZ, but now I don't anymore because the games are dog shit. And they're like not fun to play. And so I actually have time in my schedule for another title, but there's nothing good. So it's just like, oh man, I don't know what to do. I'm just desperately waiting for something else. That's kind of how the situation is breaking down. It's awful.
But at the end of the day, I have to give Hoyoverse their flowers. They're basically the granddad of the gacha space, the one who shaped the whole scene into what it is today. Who knows if we'd have some of the peak titles we see now, like Wuthering Waves, or exciting upcoming games like Ananta, Silver Palace, and Azure Promelia. Hoyoverse didn't just make a game, they created a phenomenon that lifted the entire genre into mainstream awareness. They showed what's possible in terms of production, quality, and global reach.
He's not wrong, right? He's not wrong about any of these things. It's just so disappointing to see a company that had such a big head start, that had so much potential to actually like meaningfully change things and like meaningfully reach that full potential, but they decide instead to just like wipe their ass for 4 years and then just flush it all down the drain in the 5th year.
For that, I'll definitely give them the respect and the credit where it's due. But here's the thing, they just got to pack it up and call it a good run because it's just simply not cutting it no more. So yeah, Hoyoverse isn't crashing tomorrow or the next day or the next month, but the inevitable failure is soon to be approaching and I can't wait to see it.
The negative PR is already there. I mean, this is the thing. This has been literally the worst year in Hoyoverse history. Just in terms of like where their games started and where their games left. Do you want to know where all of these games were at the end of 2024? ZZZ was in the middle of patch 1.4. Probably the best story update that the game had ever had. And they also had just did their rework to the combat, added triple ultimates. It felt like the game was in a really good spot. A lot of people were really confident in ZZZ after its first relaunch here. HSR was right about to begin Amphorius. People thought that like 2.6, 2.7 being bad story quests, oh, they were just a one-off, right? Hoyo's gonna bring it all back for Amphorius. Oh, it's gonna be really good. Genshin was right about to go into Lantern Rite. They were about to release their Pyro Archon. Oh man, this is gonna be crazy. Surely they're gonna save the Natlan story. And then right as 2025 hit, double Mavuika Sitlali banner with the 20 Lantern Rite pulls after the phase is over. So you can't use your Lantern Rite pulls on the 2 new characters that just released. It can only be used on the reruns that are dog shit because Mavuika power crept the game. She literally did 30% more damage than every other team. And then they made it so that you could only use the Lantern Rite pulls on rerun characters that she literally just power crept and are useless. HSR releases Amphorius, the worst story update new region 3.0 patch the game has ever seen. And then ZZZ hits the brakes on their hype for 1.4 and then proceeds to release 3 filler patches in a row, and then releases 2.0, the second worst version update in gacha history, and then their dog shit anniversary rewards after that. Nothing good happened in 2025 for any of these games. It's all just been bad. It's all just been downhill. And I'm saying this in September. It's really just been that bad. It's rough being a Hoyo player.
Because either way, my used to be favorite games will start to get better or this company will perish away. What we're seeing now is a studio that used to lead, now playing it safe, cutting corners and falling behind. And the players, we've noticed it. We're not mad, we're simply just moving on. Because once people realize that there are better games out there with better systems, better respect for your time, and devs that actually listen, they're not coming back just to finally see how Genshin Impact ends after 2 decades later. I promise.
I think what a lot of people don't realize is that the day that people stop talking about how bad Hoyoverse is, that's the day that the games are actually dead. I hope people realize that, because the only way that these types of videos get like views, the only types of way that these videos get like engagement is if people are like actively thinking about in the back of their minds, oh, maybe one day these games will actually get better. Maybe one day Hoyo's actually going to fix everything. Maybe one day all the changes that we asked for are going to end up in the game. And the thing is that when people stop talking about it, when I stop making videos, when Glaive stops making videos, when people just stop making videos about Hoyoverse as a whole, that means they don't care anymore. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't realized this by now, you will realize it one day. Indifference is the real killer. When you hear news about Genshin Impact, and your first response is, I don't really care. Yeah, I'm not going to bother with it. I don't care. That's what you should be scared of.
Of Hoyoverse dominance might have been great, but like every dynasty, it doesn't last forever. And this time, it's not drama that's killing them, it's their complacency. But at the end of the day, those are just my thoughts and opinions. I raise this question to you folks that stayed here till the end of the video. Do you think Hoyo's empire will never be fall within the next handful of years? Or do you see their reign on the gacha industry continuing for the years to come?
I don't think the games will ever end service. I think they'll just slowly get less talked about time over time. Because at some point, right, when you know somebody's not listening, you're gonna stop asking the questions, you're going to stop making the requests. And right now, I think there's a lot of vocal individuals. I think there's a lot of people requesting changes. I think there's a lot of people that care because they don't have anything else to like care or play. They don't have anything else to really like do with their time. And once all these competitors come out, once all of these games that are, you know, gonna scratch that itch that gacha players are having, then they're just not gonna find the bandwidth to care anymore about the Hoyoverse games. And the thing is that Hoyo has just like been basking in the lack of competition across their titles, but I think that time is gonna come to a very swift end within the next year. I think September 8th, 2026 is gonna be a much different landscape than what we're seeing right now, and Hoyoverse is not gonna be talked about nearly as much as they have been over the past 2 years, because they have taken their opportunity and they've completely squandered it. The track record over here is impeccably bad.
Let me know in the comment section down below. I always love hearing from you all and responding to you as much as possible. For those of you that don't know me, yo, what up? My name is Smagsan. I make discussion and challenge-based content for Wuthering Waves and HSR, and we'll be covering a handful of upcoming games like Ananta.
Wait, bro, actually just... Wait, did he just skip ZZZ?
It's possible. For those of you that don't know me, yo, what up? My name is Smagsan. I make discussion and challenge-based content for Wuthering Waves and HSR.
Oh, he just dropped ZZZ. Oh, no, he just quit it completely. Bro, in his last video that we reacted to, I don't think he said he was quitting, but it sounds like he just quit. Why would he just, like, not say it? Yeah, not gonna lie. Not saying that you made ZZZ content is crazy. Not mentioning that is honestly crazy.
And we'll be covering a handful of upcoming games like Ananta, Duet Night Abyss, and Silver Palace. If that sounds like something you might enjoy,
he just like wiped it. He's like, nope, nothing to see here.
Make sure to hit the sub button and turn the notification bell on so you don't miss out on any future videos. If you enjoyed this video, I'm more than confident you'll enjoy either one of these videos on screen. On the left, we talk about how Wuthering Waves is completely outshining other gachas.
All right. Awesome vid by Smagsan. Glad that I don't know what his previous content was like, but I feel like he's happier making this type of content. It feels like maybe people know the trajectory. I would imagine he feels happier making this type of content than the prior type of content he was making before. Right? Because let's just be honest here, right? It just sounds like somebody being honest about how they feel, honest about their takes. If you are genuine about your feelings, I don't see how you can be happy with the trajectory any of Hoyoverse's games are taking. You have to be actively lying to yourself to not have, like, very pointed critiques about any of the titles. You're not, like, real unless you do, because the games have gotten so bad. And the thing is that I've played all of these games, I played all these titles, and I've seen how bad they've gotten. And it's just like the amount of people that I see with like copium that are just straight up lying to themselves. It's kind of absurd. Awesome vid by Smagsan. Make sure you give a like and a sub if you haven't yet. He's been pushing out some banger content recently. And this is just another one for the books. Let me know what you all thought. Peace.